Alright, boys. Here I am. This video idea wasn't really going to be made. But then I had, I was a bit curious. I went on YouTube. I looked at some videos of some successes and failures of games. And of course, it made me think about Genshin Impact. Oh no. That fucking game is in my head again. But you know what? I'm making this video now. I'm getting it out of my system because, again, people have discussed Genshin and how it failed as a product and how the company behind it doesn't respect their players, etc., etc., etc. But mine comes from a little bit of a different angle. So I have to say that I do understand to a point mental illness, right? I do understand how Genshin can cause that as well. And this is why I say that my viewpoint comes from somewhere different. I don't know how different. That can be your decision. But I will explain in this video at some point why I got this. That is a Genshin bracelet that I got off Amazon. We'll get to that later on. We'll get to that. First off, Genshin as a game was very lucky. And I mean, I'm just saying this because I know why it got into mainstream, right? And I'm talking mainstream. I'm not talking about popularity. It was popular, but it went mainstream very quickly because it was just the only reason was that it was released in the right circumstances at the right time. People who were starved of social interaction got presented with a game, with a universe that was basically perfect. It was designed to be perfect. I mean, fuck, look at Lumine. She's both cute and hot at the same time. I have honestly got to say that she's one of the best designed characters, best designed player model that has ever been created. I don't know if I had perfect to put onto a character, if I had to use that word to describe a character, I would use it on Lumine. Like I even though I'm a Chad personally. I play as Aether, but I have to like I can't not acknowledge the fact that Lumine's design is just so good, so good. But anyway, it lends into that whole this world is perfect, stay here for a little while kind of thing. So obviously, I had a small friend group. I still do actually. I don't know why I say had, but I have them. They say, oh, I've got this new game we're playing, and I've been playing it for like a couple weeks, and it's pretty good. And then I'm like, oh, it's anime. Oh, I don't care. Oh. And then I just don't think about it. A couple more weeks go by. Oh, and there's my friend. Oh, wow, and he's playing it. Oh, no. And then he tries to get me to get on the game, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. Please, I'm okay, thank you. But he says, no, please, but we can play together. It's so good. Please do it. And I was like, okay, fine. Stop moaning at me, please. Okay. And then I got the game. And then I started playing Genshin. And I wasn't immediately hooked because I had a lot of reservations, right? I knew way beforehand that anime had not a small community full of degenerates. I know not everybody is, but usually that's depending on how the company wants to depict the characters. That's the target audience because they know they're most likely going to get money for that. So I had put myself at distance from a lot of anime. I only watched very few because it was actually good. But playing this game, I wasn't immediately hooked. I played it with friends, and that was the only reason why I did. But I went through the story, and it was like, okay, it's not bad. And it's like, I've been playing games for a long time. I make it sound like it's a fucking job. What the hell? God, that feels awful to say. That actually genuinely feels awful to say. Oh, shit. Anyway, fuck it, I'm going with it. So, I played it. I've played for games for a long time, and I can tell when the spectacle is introduced. I was like, oh right, yes, they're doing at this point in the beginning of the game, and I can like kind of judge the pacing, and I can assume what they're gonna do next. Yeah, well, I wasn't right on too many things, but I was on something. It was almost 50-50 what I was actually right about, like trying to predict what would happen in this first couple of hours, right? But there came a time where, and brace yourself, I actually liked Genshin and would have played and suggested it to other people. However, as everybody knows, the game has gone downhill. Shocker. Because the game, so popular as it is, it's reined in so many players. And whoever's managing that game, and I'm talking a group of people, it's not necessarily just one person, and they say, oh, money. I like money. So they do decide to money the game, and people money the game for them, and then, oh look, we've got a cash cow on our hands. Fantastic. Let's squeeze the players. So they did. And then I remember, while playing the game, it was while I was doing Inazuma that I really felt the grind. I really felt how awful the mechanics were. Like the world building, the exploration was good. I liked that. The combat was okay. It was serviceable. But because you had to go and look for a fucking billion other chests, it's like trying to find your children under bushes, right? It's like it was crazy how far I had to go to find these fucking chests that would give me like 2 primer gems every single time finding them. But it began to wear on me, and it began to make me think, is this a game that I want to continue playing? And there did come a time where, after grinding in Suma and getting that fucking Sakura tree, I haven't even got up to level 50 yet, right? And I've already, like, I started that game 2 years ago or some shit, right? Just no, I'm not. I just don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Don't want to look for the oculi. I just said, right, you know what? That's too much for me. Hands off with this. I'm gonna go and take a break from it. And that break turned into almost a year's long break, and I completely forgot about it. And then I started playing Counterside a bit after that. I don't quite know when, but yeah, you know, I may make another video about Counterside, because that's again, I look, honestly, I will suck Counterside's dick for as long as possible, as long as the game is actually good, that is. But if it's rewarding for me, then fuck it, yeah, absolutely. But that's for a separate video. After a while of not playing, after a while of feeling the grind, the big thing, right, was the resin, by the way. The big thing was the resin and the artifact grinding. Holy shit. The artifact grinding is still bad. I don't mind the resin so much now, but before, it was such a big thorn in my side when talking about Genshin, because I couldn't not bring up the resin issue. The fact that they had no stamina, basically, to do shit you wanted to do was crazy. There was also the artifact grinding, and holy shit, that was terrible. I still hate artifact grinding. I really want to come up with a different system than artifact grinding. I know that it's a large part of it is for player retention, but I really disagree with the fact that there's the best way for player retention, best way to keep players playing the game. I really hate that. I would love it changed, but I have no substitute for that, so we're not talking about that too much. But there was a long time where I didn't play the game, and in that time, and I specifically remember when I stopped at the time, it was before Sumeru came out, obviously, but it was when it was speculated and shit. What people were still like, oh, you know, well, I remember going through videos of people on like a beta version of Genshin, like going through Sumeru, and they're just exploring the area and shit. And it was slow going, but eventually more and more details came out. So then the area got released, and I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going back there. I'm not going back there. And then Sumeru happened. And then Fontaine came out, and I said, no, I'm not going back there. I'm not doing it. And then one of my friends say, dude, even if even if Genshin has its problems, you can still enjoy the exploration. And you can treat it as a game where you can just relax and not do very much on. Because it's obvious that the developers don't care about it. And I said, well, if I'm going to be playing a game, I don't just want it to be relaxing. I get that's what some people want, but that's not for me. So I still pushed back against it, and I still pushed back against it, and I still pushed back against it. Until finally, very recently, we've had the, it was specifically when gaming was announced. Fucking Christ, man. Dude, you know what? You know what annoys me? That name, I don't think it was intentional for the right ways. And that's why I don't think it's that great. But at the same time, it is. Because if they didn't know how they like depicted the name and the character, then that's just still so funny. And when gaming was announced, I thought that was the tipping point. I would say, right, I will come on Genshin for this short time, and I'll get gaming, because holy shit, that is fucking funny. That is so funny. We come to now. Raiden Shogun's banner is up with Yoimiya. And I mean, it's fitting to a point, because I remember when Raiden Shogun first released, and I pulled for her, and I didn't get her. I was a sad boy. But everyone else in my friend group did. Anyway, that's where we're at now. So, now that you've heard me yap a bit, I'll get into what the game means to me. And why it's so painful to mention it. So, like, because I played with it for so long, I saw the potential in this. I saw it. It was good. The first two areas? Yes. Liyue is still my favorite area. 100%. But it started to wane in Inazuma. It was still good. But I think the overall quality of the game didn't make me want to play the other two areas. And I still haven't played them to this day. I still have not gone through them and played them. But as I began to go through the cracks of the game and find out that there was so much more wrong with it than I had initially anticipated, it did emotionally weigh down on me. Because here's a good game that at the beginning seemed like people cared about it. Seemed like people actually wanted it to make it good, you know? They actually wanted to put effort and passion into it. And now it's just all gone. Okay. Maybe it hasn't. Because again, I haven't played the most recent areas. But it definitely is not nearly as big as before. And it was going through Liyue that I actually ended up getting the bracelet. Because I genuinely love the game that much. And it's crazy to say, and this is why I say it's mental illness, because looking at it now, it's clearly not worth playing. It's very mid at best. But it was so special in the beginning. And that wasn't, I want to point out, right, that's not because I'm lacking interactions or whatever. Because I still got family to talk to, and I don't need anyone else. My life didn't change at all because I'm a person that stays in and does stuff on their computer. I don't often go out and do things and interact with the world. I think I don't need to. So my life didn't change, but it was still a thing that I wanted to invest myself in the game, and the game just didn't want to do it back to me. So, my thing is that because of that, it really made me resent it. It really did. I actually went through a short period that I didn't want anyone mentioning the game. I didn't want anyone implying that they had played the game. I didn't want to think about it. I wanted myself to be completely removed from the game. It was too much. And this is what I'm saying, like mental illness, going through the extremes. Crazy. It really is. But, yeah, that bracelet I got, it's actually got, this is the kind of bracelet that, this is like something, obviously, it's made of string, and you've got a press stud, right? Yeah. So it's a press stud, right? And then you got these different studs, they're of the elements. I've got the Dendro one here, and then they're the other 6 on my desk over there. And it came in a pack of 2. And I bought it because I love the game. And I knew it was bootleg. Oh, I knew it was bootleg, don't get me wrong. But it doesn't matter, because it felt like I was playing in the spirit of that game. I felt like I was supporting something much greater. Now I know what a mistake that was. But anyway, the game has fallen off quite a bit, and now we're at the point where Genshin is losing a lot of support recently because of the fact that they just don't want to give anything back to the players. Now, maybe they knew. Whoever initially designed this, that the wrong people would take over the project, and that it would be not very long before the game would just be not very good to play. It would just be trash, basically. But I think that because it used to be so much of a success, I know there are loads of people clinging to it, and there still is, but I really want to make something like Genshin, except it has effort put into it. You've got the world building, you've got the effort, the passion, you've got the desire to make something great. And it's got its own unique ideas, which I won't say in case I do actually end up developing it, because I don't want anyone stealing my ideas. I know, it's crazy. But the only thing I will say is that if I do end up making it, it won't necessarily be having any relation to Japan or any Asian countries. Maybe I'll include it, maybe not. But it's going to be based around where I live. Because I know for a fact it's fine making gacha games based around, like, Japan or China or Korea or whatever, but because it's done so much, it's not that it's stale, but it does make me want to just go on a path that's not been tread down before. Go on a path no one's walked down, because at the very least, I will be forging something different. Even if it's not necessarily better. And I'm quite fine with that. But anyway, now, coming back to the game, I think that there's many reasons why it failed. One is that the game itself is not respected as a piece of art or as a product. Because I can't say for certain, but Bobby, one obvious thing to point to is because of Honkai. But I mean, the Hyoians love Honkai, both players and developers. They always put more effort into Honkai games than Genshin. Genshin is the lol cow of the entire fucking group, right? But honestly, I haven't played Impact that much. I played it a little bit, and that was mostly to get context for Star Rail, because Star Rail makes some references to Impact, even if, it's actually canon, that it's a different universe, but that's something different. We're not really going into that. It does still make some nods to the other projects, right? And I thought that was cool at the time, but that's why I played Impact. And even then, it seemed like there was so much more effort put into that. More direction, more conviction than Genshin was, even at the beginning, which is crazy to me. But with where it's going now, with the fact that the rewards are not being given out, with the fact that the Genshin has always had bad anniversaries, with the fact that characters haven't been given their proper stories. I mean, if you want a fucking example, the fucking second Archipelago event, Kazuha had a better event, had a much better event, much better story in that event than he does in his actual character story, which you can go play right now. And it still fucks me off to this day. Another example is that Fischl had a really good story in that same event. It's a shame that there wasn't a boss fight at the end, because that would have made it really good. But it was still good, and I really liked that. and it's not in the main game. It's only an event. And you know how like they actually reserve the good bits of writing to events that no one can ever experience again? They don't even do what Azure Lane does and then like put it back into the game. You just can't get any rewards from it, but you can still experience the story. That would be fine. They don't even do that. They just say, no, we're not doing it again. It's never coming back. Sorry. But yeah, like if you want to hear me rant about that, about like the specific problems about Genshin that I have, right? Fine, that can be a separate video. But for this, for just this, we'll just briefly mention it because that is part of a bigger problem. There's also the fact that there was a collab character. It's not nearly as big, but they still haven't given out any constellations at all. You know what we're talking about. There's only one. There is only one. But, you know, all those things seem to indicate that there's literally no one there that gives a fuck. And I know there will be some stands. And, like, it's the trouble is that Genshin is not completely bad yet. There are still some redeeming qualities about that game that I still enjoy for right now. But it's too bad. And the shit that's happening with it, it's not good. It makes me think that the company doesn't care. It makes me think that I don't want to keep playing it. It makes me think that Arataka Ito is got the worst built arms that I've ever fucking seen. And that he can be annoying sometimes, although not necessarily, because Paimon's the one that's annoying. And how much I wish Paimon just didn't have the really screechy voice. I mean, I wish they didn't make her raise her own voice that much. Like, holy shit, dude. You see, now the mental illness is now beginning to seep in because I'm talking about this. So I'm just going to make this quick. So the product is not being respected. We've quickly gone over that. Now, what else was I going to mention? So the second thing is that the game is not an example of a game that's wanting to just go and improve on game design. Not like a typical game would. It is there to make money, and that's it. Which I have mentioned on the side. But it is very demoralizing, considering that it's basically setting up a pretense of high quality, and then diminishes that the longer you play. Again, mentioned that before. But it does really make me think that Genshin, I know that all gacha games are gambling games. And there's no way around that. It is the truth. But I do wonder, and because I'm not part of the game industry at all, I can only speculate. But I do think it's reasonable to assume that Genshin, at some points, was actually trying to make addicts, to keep them spending on the game, to keep them thinking that their life was worth living because of the game, to keep them in that relationship of needing this game to continue just being a person, to live your life on the game. And I mean that wholeheartedly, to live your life on that game. And again, I don't necessarily have proof for this, but you kind of get the feeling about that because, you know, the devs don't care at this point. But also, the gacha banner, the gacha is terrible, the gacha is just horrendous. There's barely any rewards. There's barely any rewards in-game at all. Even in standard gameplay, you have to really squeeze out everything you can. You need to organize your times where you're going to be having a massive grind. I suppose there's like a 2 times event on. Then you use something like your fragile resin. Otherwise, you just save it up. And it's not at all rewarding. It's not a job. It's porn. It's that as well. But it's just a parasite. And I do think that to a point, they were considering making the game into just a parasite, not an actual video game. I can't call Genshin a video game to some degree, because it's not at all resembling the qualities of a video game should have. But I'm going to say something, and I know I'm going to touch upon something that people have said before, and that's because people have probably know more than I do about this, but there isn't any competition either. And this goes back onto the thing of me wanting to make something like Genshin. Not because I want to make Genshin better. It's because I want to make my game better. But it's because I saw something in Genshin, and I actually want to act upon it and make something good. Because no one else will do it. And even if they do, they probably won't do it to the best standard that they could. And so, like, when you have any idea, for my personal philosophy, it's always better to do it yourself. Every single thing is better to do it yourself. Now, I know that bigger projects like Genshin, it's basically impossible to do by yourself. But who says I have to make it a gacha game? Why can't I make it a single-player game, you know? Why can't I make it something I can sell on Steam? Who knows? Again, there's a conversation. Making gachas not so temporary. That's another conversation we'll have at some point, but not today. So, there's that. And I want to do that. I saw Genshin's failure. For me, personally. And I'm going to turn that, hopefully, into something good. Something that the game can respect the players, and the players can respect the game, and it's a very nice relationship. Like how all games should be. They're not jobs. They're not made to be converting players into having an addiction. They're made to be fun. They're made to be, to be fun first, and then to get money second. Because without money, you don't have the tool necessary, singular tool necessary, to get the people that will put effort into the next game that you'll make. That's it. And that's a fact. Even I know it. So, honestly, I know that there are a lot of problems with it. And I'm just briefly touching upon this because I don't feel like I want to go too deep into this. But this is it's an introduction to many other topics that I do want to talk about. So I think that all I'll really mention for now, and I know this is very off the cuff, there's no script to this, because it's something that I don't think I could actually script out. It's surprisingly personal to me. And I'm not going to bother trying to contain it in any form whatsoever. But for the short end of it, I do think Genshin is not a product that's respected by its developers. And because of that, it's now not as respected by its players either. Although there are some that still keep playing it, keep buying into it, whatever. It's also, I can't personally call it a game in some instances because it tries to leech from you so much compared to other gachas. And I do mean that. So much. It's not very fulfilling. It's not very rewarding. And I feel that I could have personally made a mistake by putting time into it. But I don't think I want to go that far. So, there you go. There's a quick video there. Because, I didn't want to try and script this because I don't think there was any way that I could. In a way that would be simple enough for everybody to understand, that would have structure, that wouldn't miss out what I wanted to try and mention. It's a lot of things, and yeah, it was pretty bad at one point. But from this, hopefully, I'm going to make something that I love. And because of that, other people will as well. Of course, it doesn't mean it won't have problems, but it does mean that people will compare it to Genshin, and in some ways will prefer my game because of what I've done with it, what I've done with the idea. That's where I'm hoping to go with this. Anyway, I also wanted to make this video because there have been a number of topics that I've wanted to discuss about on this channel, and I wasn't really sure how to go about it, so this is an appetizer of some sort. So if you are interested in any other video topics that I've mentioned in this one specifically, please put down in the comments below. And hell, any other ideas? Feel free. Honestly, more up for it. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.